Oh, hello. Someone already watching. How you doing? I was just looking up some pictures of Fantastic Beasts before I started editing this. See, the trickiness of this image that I've immediately seen is that I'm an idiot and I put my rim light too across angle, so then we got this this beauty of a shadow. And that's not nice. But if you but we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that. That's yeah, that's fine. Okay. My brain is waking up. I am a bit off today. You know, you just have days when you wake up and you're just like, you know what? Just feeling a bit shit. Can't do anything about that. Best just do some stuff. Otherwise, what are you like? So we're at the skin editing phase. Oh, they're gone. We're at the skin editing phase, and that's fine. You know, I'm trying to decide how much of these freckles to clean up. I don't know if I actually need to. Let's see. He's a little freckly in real life. A little bit. So, you know, I'll probably keep most of these freckles. Freckles are nice anyway. It's always terrible to get rid of freckles. Though quite often I find I have to replace freckles. That's in case my fucking music is playing through my mic. There we go. I have a terrible microphone headset. I play games, sometimes the audio crosses over into the mic, and it's great when you're doing something and all your friends can just hear what you're doing specifically. Oof. What's that? There we go. For this, I'm quite happy we got a little bit of rim light just crossing on the jaw. Just a little bit. So it's not too over the top, it's not over dramatic. If you want to see the full picture. It is Cage Bajamayo. It is. Good for you. But yes, I keep meaning to get back to these photos because because I should edit. But I have been busy and life has been busy, so now we're just getting to them. Oh, there's not a ton to do skin-wise on Cage. Let's move over to this wonderful person, who I believe she is Norwegian. I can't remember. I'll look it up afterwards. My brain never remembers when people are where they're from, or who they are, or their faces, or their names. And you guys wear wigs a lot, so it makes it even more tricky for someone with horrible memory. Ah, Swedish, that's it. Not Norwegian. My bad. Thanks again, Jess. Pulling me on my Scandinavian stuff things. She was lovely though. I remember I chatted to her, you see. I don't remember everyone because, again, the memory thing. But when I chat to people, normally then I remember them and it's quite nice. And if there's nice people, I get a good fix on it quickly. And she seemed like nice people. Not too bad on the skin either. This won't take too long. See, skin editing it's like I hate skin editing. I hate it. I wish we all had just perfect skin. I know, I'm sure we all do, but I wish we did from a purely selfish, time-consuming manner. I am to do this, and I always do it too much as well. Like in terms of like my brain, once it latches on to seeing what details in my head shouldn't be there, that's it. It's stuck. Like I can't walk away from it once I see it. I have to fix it. It's a terrible, terrible thing. I could have done so much more. I could have procrastinated way more if I wasn't so focused on fixing little bits like this. See this? No one will even see that. Look, I'm zoomed out here. I can't fucking see that. What I can see is this. Oh, let's give myself a little help hand. Because I'm lazy. There we go. This is a black and white adjustment layer, and if you push the reds down, then you can just see which dark areas and which light areas are messing up on the skin tones. Now the thing is, because you can't actually see the skin tones though, you can't tell if you're possibly removing stuff that you shouldn't remove. So it's not always useful. Sometimes it is just a very it's only good when you're doing like top big things that you know you're going to spot, and it's definitely not going to be a shadow or something like that. And in this case, I know it's not because this is a very plain area, so I don't need to worry about accidentally removing some shadows and making the person's face look odd. And if I do, I'll just put it back anyway. The other thing is, once you turn this on, you immediately see like just everything. You just see everything. So it's like upgrading my I need to fix this brain to a whole new level of Kieran, look, there's a black spot there. Kieran, look, there's a black spot there. What you doing, Kieran? Why have you not fixed that yet, huh? Why is it still there? I'm getting to it, brain. Shut up. I'm a busy man, brain. Busy drinking coffee and sitting in my computer chair. Hard times. Oh, I thought I got post for a second. I got junk mail. That's saddening. Post is the best. Even though most post these days is crap. I feel like I should put background music into this, but then I need to remember to like separate my mic noises somehow. I don't know how to do that. Because otherwise this will get really boring for people. They'll come and watch and they'll be like, ah, look, he's still spending 20 minutes editing skin. That's fun. Oh, we got 2 watchers now. Someone else has joined. A new combatant has entered the arena. Don't be shy. Feel free to talk, new person, as well. I like comments. Comments means I can talk to someone rather than just vaguely expunge the random bullshit thoughts in my head. It's not great when I do that. But we're almost done on skin already. That's actually pretty quick. Like this is good skin. Like this may seem like I'm going over the top, but sometimes what I do as well is I remove all the detail and then I'll actually put it back, but only at like 40%, and then I'll just remove the bits that I really don't like. So it can seem extreme at first, and then you're like, oh, but wait, he put it back, and the person does have skin texture. Oh, it was all a plan all along. But still, yeah. Lynn has good skin, and this is genuinely a very quick, easy edit. Like I can see most of the texture and detail here is very good, so I don't have to worry so much. It's chief complaint. You ever talk to me in person, you want to hear me being a shit, just asking about skin that I've not enjoyed editing. That is something that grinds my gears, and I will immediately be like tear into people, even though it's completely not their fault. You know, like they're stressed or they just have bad skin, and there's me being like, but they take 2 hours to edit because of their skin. But it's okay. It's okay. We're calm now. We're calm, Kieran. All right. Go. Leave a little bit of the cheek texture. Tone that down. There we go. I think I said this yesterday, but a lot of people don't like, and I don't get it, is this line here. And I don't get it because it's cheek. It's what shows your cheekbone, and it can be a bit weird when people say that to me. They'll be like, "Can you get rid of the line that highlights the thing that we like to highlight in photos?" Well, I can. I can get rid of it easy, like lickety split, just bam, it's gone. But that doesn't mean I want to. It doesn't mean you should want to. But it's okay. I forgive everyone, eventually. It's not true. I forgive some people, eventually, depending on what they've done. You stab me, I'll never forgive you. Don't stab me, you know? What's this? I got an achievement. Like clockwork. Is that because I came on, like, the same time, twice? Streamed for 2 unique days in the last 30 days, all tight. Nice. Cool. Alright, I should also spam this into somewhere else. Because if you're streaming and you're not being viewed, are you really a streamer? You're just a madman talking to yourself. Okay, there we go. Right. Okay, cool. Anyway, let's finish this off. This won't take too long to do that. There we go. That's the skin. And you see, so then we get this is terrible. This is a bit patchy. You can see these lines here, which, yeah, they're a little bit I always complain to people when they remove too much texture, and then if they watched me edit, they'd be like, "You are your own hypocrite, Kieran." I am my own hypocrite. But just because you don't like something and you do it doesn't mean you shouldn't say you don't like. You can still say you don't like it, you know. Otherwise, you're just accepting it. Change doesn't start without social output. Remove that. Ooh, I've been tailor picking which photos I decide to edit because I don't really want to do ones where I have to do such heavy edits on, because I don't want these streams to go on for too long. So this one's should be quite a simple one. Like I imagine once I've done the skin and the basic stuff, this will only take about an hour total. That's probably with some faffing about and me just getting distracted by like my rabbit or something. Eventually I'll have a camera and then I'll just probably put my rabbit on my shoulder and everyone can see my rabbit because I love my rabbit and people love my rabbit. And that's because he's the best rabbit in the entire world. And anyone who tells you otherwise is a fucking liar and should shut their fucking mouths. My rabbit is best rabbit. Your rabbit is just a stinky bag of poop. That's it. That's how it is. Okay, cool. So we have removed a lot of texture. Now that might be a bit too much, really. Also, I don't like necklines. I'm just a terrible person, so I just get rid of them. Like, begone, vile neckline. You're a human being's natural trait, but I won't have you. Not in my photo. Alright, there we go, there we go. And I completely forgot the chin, didn't I? Got distracted by the cheek. Okay, cool. So that is detextured as fuck, which is a bit much. So then what I sometimes do, the crying, laughing emoji. I lost him too, but it's okay. You can just put star sign, crying, laughing, star sign. I'll get it. I think most people will get it, but you know, you do you. You do you, boo. Ain't no one gonna stop you. Anyway, so next step is I put some of that texture back. Because what are we without texture? But you see that's a good point, just seeing the difference of, but I don't like this. This is, in my opinion right now, is almost as bad as like that. Like that's fine. That's a human being. That's real. That's fake. So let's get the in-between point. We'll just do 50%. And then what we'll do, because there'll still be some bits I didn't like, you go to this layer and just remove little bits. Little bits. There we go. See, and that way we keep some of her wonderful, like, natural skin patina, which looks beautiful and lovely, because real stuff is beautiful and lovely. But we get rid of the little crappy bits that nobody likes, and you know, maybe hopefully Lynn doesn't like, and so she'll forgive me for getting rid of some of them. I'm sure she will, because she seemed, you know, again, lovely. But whatever. And I do want to get rid of half of that. There we go. And let's go up to Cage, because doing that did exactly the same to Cage, and then I didn't want the mole there. I'm sorry, Cage. It's lovely, but I know you get rid of it in 90% of your photos, so I don't feel too bad. That's a good thing to do as well as a photographer. Research who you're editing. Look at what they edit out. What do they normally get rid of? What shape do they apply to their face? You know, like I have to edit like a lot of you know, people from abroad, and we all have different editing styles in different countries, so it makes sense to think like, cool, so what are they used to, and how can that help both my editing and how can I make them enjoy the photo more, because this is a service, this is me creating something for someone else, and I want them to like it, I want them to want to post it. If they don't want to post it, well then I done fucked up, son. Oh, but okay. Oh, no, almost. Oh yeah, I forgot. This shadow. You see. Yeah, let's actually just turn this off here, because I am not going to redo that. There we go. Just get that whole area back. That's fine. Shh, go to sleep. Go to sleep, layer mask. Boop. And we're just going to merge those layers, and that will become cloned. Alright, so what have we got now? So, that's just skin. You know, you can see it. You can see it over here especially, and then obviously you see Cage's mole disappear, but that's fine. also just clean up this line here because it looks dirty. There we go, that's fine. Right, now just a little bit of liquify. Shh, don't tell people I do this. Apparently it makes me a monster and I'm like prevailing the societal view that human bodies are the incorrect shape that magazines are trying to constantly tell us is wrong. Except I think people would tell me to do it a lot of time if I didn't. So, I don't know. Don't blame me. I am merely the photographer. I am not the master of societal view. I think I'm going to say it like every time I edit someone. I'm just going to be like, yep, and now here comes a liquify. Ah, don't judge me. Judge society. I ain't going to be a martyr, I'm sorry. That ain't my life choices. But there is some nice things to liquify. So like, I love making people's hair just a little bit poofier, a little bit more volume. Sometimes I fuck up. I did a photo the other day of Ben, and it was his Percival from Ready Player One. I just posted that a minute ago actually. I'm gonna post it on Instagram later, but I did one of his, and the thing I did wrong was I touched his hair and made it all poofy and fluffy, but what I didn't notice was that I'd made him have a massive bump at the top of his head, and I was just like, okay, that's fine. I didn't notice, so I sent it to him, and he's like, yeah, my wig must have been bad that day. There's a massive bump on the top of my head. And I'm just like, yeah, it was your wig. Oh, it wasn't me. It definitely wasn't me. Whoopsies. So, you know, liquify is good, but you just have to remember to look at what you're doing afterwards as well, because it's too easy to fuck up. And a lot of people do fuck up. I mean, one of my favorite ones is when people over liquefy and they forget the lines of the background. So like that tree right there, right? If that was, or this line here is a good example. Say I want to make this arm thinner. Well, I've got a problem because I've got a line right next to it. Let's do it in a dumb way. Look, see, you end up with a big old obvious trait. So I'm actually going to continue a second though, because then what I would normally do is put that back in its place. Takes a second, but it makes you look less like an amateur and more like a person who knows what they're doing. There we go, that's a bit better. Cool. And then, you know what, this is a dumb one, you see, because the niffler is quite small, but because it's a part of the picture that I want people to see, I also want it to be a little bit bigger, just a little bit, because it's one of the subject points of this image right here. You know, we're giving the coin to the niffler because he wants it, because he's a greedy shit. So we're just gonna very gently make him a little bigger, just a little bit, not a lot. You know, no. If I give this to Cage, I doubt anyone would notice I've made the niffler bigger. You know, like that no one's gonna think, ah, he's made the niffler bigger. I know, and I know that in my head I made that bigger. Yeah, layer masking is fine. So quite often what I do when I'm shooting with someone who specifically says, hey, can you liquefy this a lot? And they say they have body issues in their head, or they just want it to be a bit more thinner or whatever. You know, I don't judge. They ask me in advance. We'll do a plate shot. And a plate shot is so that I can just be like, cool, I get them out of the photo, I take a picture of the background, and then I use that as I can replace the background. So if I have to do over the top massive editing like liquefy, I can just pop that in, layer mask it in, and just be like, cool, so this was the background before and after, so I don't have to worry about that. So yeah, it's not too bad. All right, what have we got? We got no faces detected. That's a shame because I really love the face the face liquefy bullshittery stuff they've got here. It is a fantastic thing. When Photoshop added that, they saved me so much time. I loved it. So what you can do though, a trick. Say you're doing this, and you yeah, I'm gonna have to get rid of that line there. I think that just makes her dress look big. It's because she's sitting down. Sitting people down is always terrible. Oh, there's a mask. There is, isn't there? You know, this I learn stuff all the time. It's this, isn't it? Freeze mask. You taught me something which I vaguely knew but never actually tried. I also enjoyed there's a 15-second delay. So like you type a comment and I in 10 seconds I'm like, oh my god. But hold on, that's fine. I did not know that. Learning Smarter Every Day. That's a YouTube channel we should all follow, by the way. It's a great YouTube channel. If you're not following it, go follow it. It is fantastisch. You will learn so much, and he gives you principles that you should take away and be like, cool, I would like to be smarter. So how do I do that? And if you watch him, you realize that it's just about talking to people and listening to them. So when someone goes, hey, I do this, I go, you do what now? Because I want to know. I want to know what this shit is. I want to see this magic. I will actually try it in a future liquefy because now I want to know. Oh, don't fuck this up, Kieran. Come on, you can do this. Alright, there we go. That's bad. There we go. Let's get rid of some of that texture. Oh, it's not nice. I kind of fucked up. Guys, I fucked up. Shh, don't tell anyone I fucked up. I'll make it better. Okay, that's not bad. There we go. Move that top line. Flattens it out. That's a bit better. Just removes that line there, makes it a bit nicer. Okay, cool. Where are we up to? Let's see. Liquefy that. Just drop a little bit of this shadow here. Cool these. Where was I up to? Cool. Head on. Alright, that's good. See, look, Niffler is like 30% bigger. That's good in my opinion. Right, so now I'm going to run action. So this action is my basic set. So I'll explain what it does. I made this action long ago to save myself time because I'm lazy, and everyone who does photos eventually becomes lazy because that's just the way of things. So what it does, first it puts in a load of photos which just allow me to have everything organized immediately without me having to do jack shit. It does, however, still put this photo in, which I don't even use, and once I run another action later, I'll actually delete that photo, but I'm too lazy to remake my action, so I'm just going to keep doing it and spend 0.8 of a second deleting stuff. So one of the first things it adds in is this top one, which is my fade. So if I turn that on and off, you'll see it just drops the darks, the shadows, and the blacks a little bit. It just makes them a little bit less over intensive. And I always drop it to about 30%. And if we have a look at it as a curve adjustment, all you can see I've done is I pulled up the shadows. So that's all you do. You take that bottom one, you go zink, and then it'll be really, really over the top when it's at 100%. But that's I always do it over the top because then I have more basically well, I have more scale, you know, more dynamic, more range to adjust it and to add what I want in. So then 30% is technically still too much. But then another thing I've been doing quite a lot of recently is, and I just gradient mask off. I gradient off the layer mask a little bit towards the top, because then it just fades the bottom a bit more, which is normally where the subject is. The other bit we add is a set of correction curves. They're just curves, they're nothing magic, but this is how I like to make sure I have a bit more contrast on the subject and a bit more correct white balance if I want it in post. And I don't always want it, but normally it's quite nice. So the first one is I take the black and I come up here and I find an area which I decide is black. Oh, come on, there's going to be a dark. I want a real black. There we go. That's not bad. There we go. You see that? Immediately just pushes the shadows back in. So if I turn that off, it turns it kind of gets rid of some of the natural fade that was there, but it's more for the subjects because I'm essentially setting my contrast in line with the subjects themselves. I don't normally use these on the background much unless it's the gray one. The white I might do because then I know I want this to be white. Because it's already close enough. And then finally we have gray, which we will go here and I will cheat and use F8 to find myself there we go. This is a good area. So if you notice, I don't have a second mouse, but if you notice the top right next to navigator, I have my CMYK section. What I'm looking for is all those percents to be roughly the same or very close enough. So pop that. And what that does is that technically white balances it again. Now I do that in Lightroom, but sometimes my brain can't see it, and I actually like doing it off the image itself. It's only very slightly destructive to the image. It's the tiniest amount of extra grain. That's added a little bit too much red there though, so turn that down a little bit. And again, this one is a little bit harsh, so we'll turn that down a little bit. And then white should be fine. Yeah, that's fine. So that's cool. So then what I'd add then, and I told this one yesterday, and I know I'll repeat it tomorrow because every time I do something, I will repeat because I'm doing the same editing, you know. Yeah. It's scared that people are gonna, have to get used to hearing the same lines if you watch repetitively. I wouldn't suggest watching repetitively. Just watch occasionally, or like take a look and see if the image is any good. So this one here is a cheeky, sneaky trick that I do just to add a little bit of highlight to the face straight away. It's just a 0.3 exposure layer. And what I do is I take the star gradient, gradient, gradient tool. My brain can't remember words. And I just jam it on there. So what that does is it just literally adds a star of light on their face, because all I want is a very gentle, simple highlight of their face is I want this section and this section to be highlighted a little bit more. So then I do this for the other person, do it for Lynn, do it for Lynn, and then that's it. That's my top folder. So what that does is you can see it's brought the contrast up a bit, it's highlighted the faces a little bit. I could layer mask off that like there, but I'm way too lazy for that, and only I know it's there, so no. What are we going to do next? So next we run mid. Now mid is my sharpening and oil filter layers. This is a section of stuff that I often believe makes a lot of my images, beyond my lighting and my composition, the way I shoot. I think this is, in the editing phase, a lot of what adds to my stuff. What is two folders. One is sharp and one is oil. Oil is an oil filter, which if I show you it with nothing, with no adjustments, so I'd never leave it like this, but this is it in its entirety. You notice it like super smooths everything. Everything is super smooth. It's like an oil painting, almost like it was in the name. But you don't do that because doing 100% would be crazy. And then the other one is sharp, and it's super sharp at the moment, so you see it brings everything back. But what we do straight away is we take this bitch right off the fucking skin. Sharp on the skin is the worst. You know, this is why layer masks are your best friend, because anyone who doesn't use layer masks, I can always tell. I actually think it's the height of laziness if you won't layer mask your crap off the person. Unless you're only doing like simple, easy stuff, sure, whatever. I ain't gonna judge you fully. Well, I will judge you a little bit. Unless you're doing like super simple stuff like that's only going to require Lightroom or whatever, you should always be making use of layer masks. Always be making sure that what you add to the image affects what you actually want it to affect. I want to know who the second person watching is. You see, my thing says there's 3 people watching, but one of them's me, which confused me a lot yesterday, and I think I just basically talked to myself a lot for like about half an hour. But, we got 3 today. Don't be quiet, other person. I just want to know who you are. I just want to know who's watching me. That should scare them off. They should go away then. I like that you're still here, Jasmuth. Unless you left. Oh. Oh. I don't think you have. Okay, so I just got rid of it off there, but at the same time, I actually also want some of that sharpness on the face. So what I do is I then go back in, because I'm not going to try and do it in the first phase, and I just put it right back onto the eyes so that it makes them sharper again. So my brush, put the hardness up a bit. There we go, that's better, and that's added a white outline. Cool. Just for those who don't know, I am an idiot I use a mouse still. I've edited for years and I know I should use a tablet. I own a tablet. I have one somewhere behind me in a pile of stuff. But I just don't like them. And it's going to be a little bit longer before I can be bothered spending a couple of months learning to use it correctly and come back to it. It does, however, mean that I get the most hilarious layer masks sometimes, like when I'm doing this. And I'm just like bringing some of the sharpness back. So let's have a look at this layer mask just to see the wonderment of the clown face. Look at that, like a child's drawing. Okay, and then the second part of what I remove from the sharpening is I always take it off the background a lot. For one, it actually adds a lot of grain because it disturbs the detailing quite a bit. So there's a lot there. But what I want to do is take a super hard brush at 70% and I'm just going to very roughly go around them. Everything I do is very roughly. Like I should just have that as like some kind of disclaimer, like a fucking big old neon sign, warning, will be done roughly. Oh, that sounds wrong. Don't laugh at your own jokes ever. But yeah, I just go around people. I don't want to do that monolith behind them. I just want to do that and that. And then on the statue, I'm just going to take 30% off because it's a bit more of the image. It's a bit closer. I like it a bit more, so I don't want it to disappear as much. But I do still want it to not be as sharp as my beautiful models. Cool, did I get that bit there? I'm just doing that in white. Clever Kieran. Yeah, that's something I do a lot. Oh boy. Look forward to seeing that mistake a lot. I was like, why was my layer mask not different? Wasn't paying attention. Too busy laughing at doing things roughly. Alright, this time it'll do stuff. And I'll see it do it. It's a thing when you do a lot of micro changes, you can see them happening, but also sometimes your eyes will see it happening even if it's not happening. There's a fun one when I dodge and burn. After time I'll forget to put my brush to white and then I'll just start dodging and burning. And I'll just be like, oh, it's doing stuff. And then a second later I'll be like, no, it's not. Stupid Kieran. Okay, let's start with this bit because then I know I've done it. That's what happens when I use too small a brush, then I have to spend ages doing it. Okay, that's almost done now. It's a rough thing, it just needs to vaguely drop some of the sharpness on here. If there was a little bit showing still, I wouldn't mind. That's better. Right. So that's sharp. Let's turn that on and off. You can see very clearly here-ish, zoom in a bit. And actually, like as an example, I can show you the brushes because one brush is the 30. So you see it comes up a bit. If I turn off to 70 as well, then yeah, you can see that background. Let's look at some more detail. Yeah, it just drops out a little bit, which is good. I just don't want it to not be. I don't want it to be a feature. It's just the background. Right, so then we go to oil. And what I do is I immediately put normally between 10 and 25%. Kind of depends what the subject is, because if it's something very anime, I'll put more oil filter in because it's fine in my head for it to look a little bit more, a little bit more oil and painted. But if it's something gritty and natural, then I don't really want it to be as strong. Hardness. Again, this is one where I kind of flip it this time. Whereas sharpness I add back into the details. I don't want oil on my main features. I want that to be gone. Be gone, vile oil painting. I want this to be quite sharp and stand out. So we just remove that from there and there and there and there. And again, we just do this super roughly. And then I always add more back in though because I like... Oh, you went away for a bit, Jesmoth, but you're the only person watching and talking to me now. Oof. So, the oil filter. Let's go back a bit. Ah. Yes, I can just delete the layer mask and put it back. This is what oil filter is if you didn't have a layer mask on at a set percent. It smooths the shit out of everything. Everything is super smooth. Super smooth. And that's fine. I can, I could leave it like that, but then I'd also look like I've just had diarrhea on a photo, essentially, in smooth diarrhea. So we don't do that. What we do is we layer mask it and we take off. I normally put about between 15 and 25% in, depending on the subject matter. And on top of that, the other thing I have, and the reason I have both of these, because they kind of work together. It's sharp and oil, right? So the oil smooths out the textures in general, and sharp pulls up the edges, because this is edge sharpening. This is all high passes essentially. Two different types of high passes with soft and overlay at different percents, and they pull up the edges. So say if you've smoothed the shit out of all your surfaces, but you pulled up all your edges, you get this wonderful merging of nice painted feel while having very sharp edges. A lot of thought process goes into my editing. Never forget that. I've done this a while, and this is one of the things I've done for a long time. This has been like one of my main bits. So that's what that does. So I've just so the things I did with the sharp was I took it off the background, took it off the skin because it's way too much for the skin, and I very, very roughly did it. And I made a wonderful joke about rough. It was great. You missed it, how I roughly do everything. But that was for me. And then oil filter, what I do is I quickly also take it off the eyes and the mouth and nose because I don't want it to be on those sections. And then we add it back in though because I do want a bit more on the hair especially. I think wigs look beautiful with just a bit more oil. It smooths them down a bit because wigs are often a bit harsh in their texture, and I almost always just very quickly apply a bit to the rest of the body, just very quickly. I don't want to take away too much detail, especially something which is so weathered like this, It's quite nice, and we'll have a look at that up close. So if I turn oil on and off now, you see what it does. But if I turn oil on and then I turn sharp off, you can see the difference there as well. So that's pretty cool. It's okay, we're both learning stuff, Jess. I've learned the layer mask liquefy thing from you, and I'll actually try that at some point, and now you're learning stuff from me, apparently. Cool. Anyway, so we do that. Put a bit more there. I can see it on the layer mask, it's a little bit less. I'm still going to turn that down a little bit. I almost always overdo things and then turn them down. 85% is probably my favorite percent. Also, oil filter removes highlights a lot. It dulls them down. It's like it's done a curve that's pulled them down. So normally I just put a little bit back in with an attached curve. So yeah, see? Magic. And at the same time, now I can delete my completely useless skin. I'm getting post. Oh, there's a package. Hold on, I need to go see what my package is. Alright, it wasn't for me, it was for Leanne. I'm very sad now. Like post. Cool, so next step is dodging and burning. See, a lot of my stuff is very methodical. I do the same sort of things. If I could do a lot of this with actions and without me physically having to do it, I really, really would. But unfortunately, a lot of this is why you pay photographers. Basically, you can't, if you want to do it right, you can't do it magically and with edit without like a human interaction. So you just need that human touch occasionally. Take that down a little bit. Those cheeks little bit. Take that down a little bit. Take that down a little bit. Add to the bridge. You know, now I'm thinking about it. I think that Cage often has nose edits. Let me open that in a different window so nobody can tell that I'm checking. You know, not like I'm saying it out loud on a live stream or something. Cage. There we go, Cage costumes. That's it. Does Cage edit that nose a lot? I mean, technically, Cage doesn't edit the nose. You know, it's other people, but again, it's one of those things. Selfies are a good one, though. You can always tell what people like to hide from their selfies. Yeah, there is a little bit, almost constantly. I forgot to straighten it myself, so let's do that. What I can do is I normally add above this layer. This is like where I can make a stamp layer, which allows me to make any changes I forgot without having to. Like, this stuff is basically, once that's on, it's very hard for me to adjust anything below it, so like liquefy or anything like that. I know why I forgot. I meant to do this because I wanted to show off the fact that if liquefy can't see a face on the whole picture, sometimes it sees a face when you just select the face. In this case, it did not. It would have been nice if Photoshop had played ball there. Could have played ball. Could have been nice. I've got to straighten that down a little bit and bring that in a little bit. There we go. I would do the lips, but I'm too lazy. There we go, that's better. Cool. I don't think people have real noses anymore. I think we all have Photoshop noses. Sorry. Random fucking idea and suggestion. Okay, continue dodge and burn. Let's dodge there, done. Now we start on Lin. Get the little areas. So I don't need to do, well, I'm not going to do micro dodge and burn for this. So this is just really general dodge and burn. All I'm doing is pulling up the main highlights and, you know, just doing the areas that you kind of, you just do them normally. It's a very standard sort of area to highlight and shade. And then, though I want to keep that line, I do want to neuter it a little bit. Come on, that's it, down you go. Let's put a bit one there. Cool, so that's the dodge. Shove some there. Dodge up that hand. Dodge up that hand. There's oh, Nicholas has joined and he's hosting me. Thank you, Nicholas. Mildly appreciated. You know, maybe one day I'll be having enough people watching to make some of that sweet Twitch money, huh? Doubt it. Don't try if you don't get if you don't try, though. So another thing I often see with dodge and burning is people dodge and burn the face a lot, and they might do arms or like chest or something like that. They often forget the hands. It's a real random fucking thing that people forget the hands. But if you've dodged and burned all of the face and the neck and the chest, like, why are their hands so dark, buddy? You know, you got to think about the rest of it. Like, it's not, they're a single human being. They're not like a disconnected sections. It all has to work. So now a little bit of burn. And what you'll notice again is I over the top do this. I actually, for dodge and burn, I always over the top do it. I actually add way more than you basically need because then I like to tailor it down. It gives you, I think for me, it gives me a better view of what the fuck I'm doing. And that way I know how far I've gone and I can adjust accordingly. I'm sure there are people who can just be like, this is a masterpiece, I need to only do it this much. French people apparently from that bad accent, but no, just I need a little bit more just to see it. All right, pop it there. You see this? The thing with Dodge and Burn also, it does show up when you haven't edited the skin properly. Da, 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 da. But also at the same time, that's good because then you can go back and you can fix the little bits you just missed. I think this is one of the things why I didn't want to stream beforehand because I just assumed that people would either get bored of watching or I would show too many of my mistakes. And these days I realize that those mistakes are actually just part of the learning process, and that you always make mistakes because you have human being eyes and you can't see jack shit. So until we have stuff that shows it, we don't know what we're doing wrong. There we go. Just get rid of those, get rid of those, get rid of that. Even this out. Just gonna get rid of that. Go. That's better. Just a little bit more there. We have a thing in marketing, a scale of 1%. It's where you make 100 changes, which over time cause like any increase which helps something by 1%. Even if you're only doing like 10 of them, over time that 1%, that 10th 1% is now, you know, it's you've already increased the percentage growth of that individual percent. I can't do basic maths in my head off the top of my head, so just figure out what the 10 times 1 intricate evolution of that percent would be. But you get it. So that's the same with editing. You do a lot of little things, and that helps a lot with the overall picture. Let's do that. There we go. So you see, this looks ridiculous right now. Look at them. They look like overly shiny people. So the first thing I do is, even though I use a hard brush and it's kind of counteractive to that, I Gaussian blur my layer masks a little bit because I like it to just blend in a little bit. So normally about, depending on the distance, 12 or 18, depends how big the area is. There's no exact one. Even then, it depends on the size of your picture as well, because you might have a smaller picture, like size-wise. There we go. So that's good. That's a good start. If we look back on those, there we go. You see that, especially on the nose, you see it's blended in and just a little bit more. That makes it a little bit better. Now, sometimes I'll individually lower the opacities on these. I'll just be like, cool, that's my dodge. So I might want that at like 70%, and then my burn, I probably want that at like 50%. I think I can probably just go with both of them being at like 60, and that'll give us the even that I kind of want. If we look at that, yeah, you see that 40% drop is pretty good. But then at the same time, if we go outwards, then we can see overall, we see, yeah, that's not bad. Maybe actually a little bit too high still. I'll go with 54, drop 10% out. Oof. Oh, I have to cut this one a little short because my wonderful girlfriend is coming home and she is not feeling great. So apparently it's my fault for getting takeaway last night. It probably is. I mean, I'll accept that. But let's continue a little bit because I don't think this one will take too long. So let's pop that on. Let me just warn her that I'm streaming. Alright, so now I'm going to dodge and burn the objects. Mainly this is just pulling out highlights and shadows and just making them a bit stronger. It's like an artificial HDR basically. Yeah, it's like HDRing. Well, HDR is artificial, but it's like a manual HDR actually. Yeah, you're just doing it yourself. A bit there. Long. There That's not bad. This one won't take too long. This is not too bad. This whole image is not too bad in terms of like, oopsies, how long it's taking and what I have to do. This is it's actually pretty simple because it's almost story based in terms of it's just, hey, look at this Niffler being given some money. 'Cause people like money. Money is good. There we go. There we go. Pop it in there. Pop a bit in there. That's good. There we go. Don't forget her hair. Hair is a great one to do this on. It brings it out and really makes it pop nicely. Gets those highlights and eventually we'll get those shadows going as well. There we go, cool, so that's white, and then we're just going to add in black. And depending on the picture, I either put it on separate layers for the white and black, or I do it on one. For something simple like this, I'll just keep it on one. Doesn't need to be too, again, do it very roughly, just needs to go on and make those shadows darker, make those highlights lighter. There's a lot of overlap, but that's fine because when you add, because I'm just using, especially because I'm using a mouse actually, I have very rough lines, and so when I add the white, I'm adding white to places I probably don't want to add it, and so I do the same on the dark, and it kind of neuters them out. They should even out. This little face, a little mess. There we go. There we go. Bit more there. It's definitely one of those skills that you just have to learn over time. That you just do it, and eventually you get to know how much you need to do it. It's not what I like. I remember when I first started doing this, I was always like trying to look up like how much do you dodge and burn, and there is no how much. You are literally doing a question of how long is a piece of string, and so you just need to make sure you're paying attention to what you do, and therefore you'll learn over time. Sometimes I use this black as well, just a little bit on the cheeks. No, not that one. That one's fine. There we go. And the hair. That's not bad. There we go. And let's have a look at that. So that's a little bit too much, but again, it's like my other one. I always do a little bit too much. I always blur to blend it together a bit, and then I almost always drop by 20%. This one's almost always the same because I just kind of know roughly how much it will be over the top by. Right, then we just do the same background. This one is the most roughest because it just needs to be big chunks of whites and darks in the correct areas. Kind of almost like contrast addition for the background, really. But this one I always blur a bit more because it's not enough. Drop that. Oh, technically, we're now up to the fun bit. So this is roughly what I do to every image. What we've done so far is just the standard level of image editing images. So let's see what my standard level of image edit is. This is what any image should get. That's a fair change already. You know, we've adjusted the lines on the clothing. We've adjusted the size of the hair. We've made Niffler big. The fade, the contrast. There's a lot more there going on. Okay, cool. So that's the edit photo. Next, we're going to start on a photo which is very arbitrarily called CGL now. It just means color grade and light, but in reality, I don't put those photos in there anymore, except I know what CGL means. So it means whenever I look in any of my photos, I know what each one will have and contain, rather than having to think, where did I put that thing? Grade. Oh, they still contain grade. Not bad. Forgot about that. I'm thinking sky replacement, but I might not actually for this one because I think it's fine with the whites coming in. A bit of blue there will actually will mess around. Like if I add a sky in, it will. There's too much blur between the tree and the background. It'll look a bit weird, so I might actually not do that one. I like to replace the sky a lot. It's like standard Kieran. But actually, before we get to that, there is some mid corrections I'll do. Now this is twofold. One is adding in corrections. So my screens I know are not as bright or dark as the average. So I normally add in a couple of things. One is just a little bit more light from a curve because there's almost my damages are too dark otherwise. And then a little bit more contrast because flavor. Literally no other reason. I don't think it really needs it, honestly. I've just always add it now, and therefore I always add it. That and do that. There we go, not bad. Right. And then I do often, sometimes I keep my colouring to the midsection, especially if it's like trees, and in this case it will be trees because they are a nice green already. But I'm just going to do it a bit more because I really want them to be a nice scion against my lovely models. There we go, and that's become yellow too already, which is good. Cool. That's weird, I've gone too far, haven't I? What have we added in here somewhere? Oof, let's just start again with that one. Yeah, I think I tapped one of these oranges and that's probably what did it. There we go, that's better. Oh, you know what, I might not even, I might desaturate, but I kind of like that. I'm going to do it a little bit, which might push it up a bit as well. Yeah, that's nice, that feels more fantastic. A bit more desaturation though, because we've added in white. There we go, that's nice. And now just to make sure it's only on the stuff I actually want it on, we're just going to layer mask that on. Because that's one way you could definitely fuck up by accident. You know, you do this thing and you think, cool, it should only be affecting these greens, but you don't check, and then you look later and suddenly you've got a fucking green coin or some bullshit. So I'm going to do that one personally. There we go. Cool, that's not bad. That's a nice color set straight away. I added an orange rim light in this one, so I don't know whether to go with the old fake Sunaruni, which I might do. Get to see my beautiful lens flare folder. I have a few now these days actually. These are the ones that I mostly made myself though. Let's have a look. Maybe we'll just put it in a little bit. So I just want a little bit of the flare, the dramatus, coming from that side. That way when I lower the opacity as well, it won't be as problematic. It's better. I'm going to slow that down to like, we're going to go with, let's go with 60. No, way too much. 85, yeah, but it's too much bullshit here. I don't like it. So let's just take it out of frame and then just bring it in by size rather than by way too much. I can do that. I just kind of want this light flare coming across. That one I can drop a little bit. Nope, too far. Don't know if I like that. That's not nice. I don't think the colour's nice. That's the problem. It might be a problem. Let's find out. Let's drop it a little bit. Yeah, -6. Nope. better. It's a bit distracting. Not sure how I feel about it. A little bit much. Okay, that's fine. We'll leave that for now, though. Yeah, that's okay. Let's add in the vignette next. Darken those edges. Darken those edges. Wait for my computer to catch up. Oh. Okay, cool. Right. I did count I'll finish this image by now. I wanted it to be only an hour. But I think it'll take another 15-20 minutes because I've not got to the effect yet. I don't need much. It just needs I think just some dust and a bit of something on the coin just to make it look more magical. But we'll get to that. Okay, that's fine. Put it down to 70. Just let myself there. Effect. I might steal an effect I did on another image the other day, because I think for the coin it'll work really well. So the first one I'll do is the one I knew I was going to do anyway. So I'm going to take my pre-made bronze sun flare, which is the sun flare that if anything is flaring like an object, it is almost always this one. This is this is like my go-to fucking one. Oh, and I also need to do a save because I have not saved. That's how you end up having to do another stream. Not a lot is done from Dokomi yet. Got quite a lot done from MCM. I got all the judge stuff done from AnimeCon. But from Dokomi so far all we've got is just a little bit. I figure at some point I should probably stream this on Facebook at the same time because I hear that's better, but I'm sure you must be able to do both, right? That can't be a impossibility. Right. So let's go make this fit. That's a little bit too much. Also, I would like it to be more circular, so we're going to do that. That's not bad. That's a good start, actually. And then let's go down here. Get me a warp. I'm going to do puppet warp because lazy. This one doesn't need to be too much. That way. Okay, that's the correct shape. That's what I want it to do size-wise. Let's put it back in the right place. There we go. That's a bit much. But you can't. The thing with flares is you can't reduce the opacity much. So if I put this 50%, what happens is you get this real like neutered white in the middle because you're reducing white, and unfortunately you can't really do that much. So sometimes I reduce like just a little bit, and if I really do need to reduce too much, I'll actually then just add in some white on top. So I'll just go back to my brush and just carefully whiten the whites back in. So that way the overall exterior glow of the thing is not so strong, but the flare is down. But actually I think that might be too much. I kind of like it being quite strong. I like that glow. Bring this back down. There we go. That should do it. Right, so I like everything to be well organized. But yes, we are going to steal something from a different image. Now I know it's this one because for once all my PSDs are in exact order, which is a rarity. I normally edit out of order, so everything is just all over the place. But in this case, I know it's this one. It should be this one. Better be this one. If it's not this one, oh, it is this one. There we go. So this is Ben. Hey Ben, how you doing? What I need from Ben is this dust, because I don't want to have to replicate it, and since I've already made it, I ain't gonna redo that. Remembering what you've done in the past is how you save yourself a lot of time. So, where have you gone, Dust? Ah, there you are. There. Now this image is not as dark and there's a lot more light, so we don't want so... We have to work on that to make it just a little bit stronger. It's already at 80%, so let's bring that up to 100. And then I think I'm just going to duplicate. Yeah, but what we might do is go back to orange. No, actually I like the blue. I'm going to duplicate one more. But this one we will delete that a second. Just delete all of these. These two can definitely merge. And this one, get myself a radial blur about there. Yeah, that'll do. And then for the other one though, I definitely want to be much smaller. Bring that down to there. There we go, that's good. And I'm not a big fan of all this dust coming up here, so I'm going to take half that off. That's better, that's not bad. There we go, that's cool. I don't think I need tons more on this. Maybe a little bit of grading. Yeah, I can do that, and then I think I'll just quickly crop down my exterior shit so that it's not as big a file. Draw grade. Let's have a look at Fantastic Beasts a second. Let's see what we actually see color-wise. Or maybe actually let's look at the color palette. Let's see if someone's made it without me having to make it myself. I actually enjoy making color palettes. It's really dumb but fun. I'm going to bring this into the main thing so everyone can see it. And by everyone I mean me and either Jess or I think Nicholas. It might just be Nicholas. So a color palette is this, and all it does is it essentially you're reducing an image to its main colors. You can do this yourself if you take a screenshot from anything and put it into Photoshop. You can do a thing called where is it? I know what I'm doing. It's save as web or something like that. My brain can't remember. It's one of the ones in these weird ones. It's like export maybe. Nope. Ah, there we go. Yeah, save for web, because then what you can do, like we could see what mine actually has once it pops up. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. So this is it with all of the colors, or 256 colors. But what people often do to make those color palettes is you do this. You put it down to 5. And then in this image, this is my color palette right now. And actually, if we then look, we know that I'm missing probably a lot of the blues and the purples. In this case, actually, a chunk of that's coming from that coat. So I'm not sure if I need to give a shit about that one. The purples are coming from the light, so you can figure it out. But basically, that tells me straight away that actually in the highlights there is a bit of this purple here. Now, if I wanted to be super lazy, what I would do is I would just take this and I would make a gradient based off of these colors or some of these colors. I think I'll do that because I'm lazy and I don't want to take much more time on this, so let's cancel that. Pop this over here. So what we want to do is we want to make a new one. And I probably want 5 colors. Let's see what we got. I've got 5 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 that'll do. So yeah, let's start because this will be the shadows. So that. I don't think I want the browns. Not sure. Browns in there a lot. I think they're just being pulled by the objects rather than the lighting. There we go. I'll take the mid one, definitely. That'll be the skin tones, what's being added to the skin tones. As we get to the highlights, we'll start to add a bit more of these lights in. There we go. And I definitely think the browns a lot are coming from something else. And then let's save that as a new one. Okay, cool. And then what I could do there is I can make a gradient map and just pop that in here. Looks weird right now. It might look weird afterwards. You never know. Change it to overlay and let's go with like 12%. So yeah, I can go a bit higher than that. It is adjusting my, it's affecting my highlights and shadows a fair bit. So I probably just want to pull that down a little bit. Yeah, that's way too much. Look at that. Look what that does up here. It's because it's doing two oddity, two very variable colors for the highlights. Got a dark and a light in the highlights, and I think I need to reverse that actually. Aha! Do I need to? That's my thing. Now purples are in the highlights. Okay. I don't know where things are. There we go. I kind of like it that way around. Looks nicer. Also makes it cleaner and easier to manage and deal with. So we'll do that. And we're going to bring you down to like 18% though. That gives us a color palette. Alright. It definitely adjusts my shadows a little bit. I'm not sure how much I like that actually. It's okay. See, this is also the trouble of taking a color palette because you end up just adding weird colors. It's not quite the same as taking the color grade because the grade itself would have been made by someone who would be a bit different. Okay, we'll leave that in and then we'll just add a little bit of gradient on top. I think we're going to go with a dual selective color. So because I've got the flare coming from one side, I'm going to do one of my classic gradings, which is we'll take out a little bit of a cyan over this side and we'll add in a little bit of dark orange.